And also today, again, we are about to discuss with regard to synergies with other programs. As we know, we are already working intensely within the Work Package 5. But also considering that next week we will participate to the event organized by HADEA regarding the synergies with other programs and the programs managing by HADEA. We are glad again that today we will be discussing it. I will quickly present the agenda.
No problem. If I needed something, I wouldn't fucking what I have.
May we? Okay, perfect. Thank you. I would like to remind to keep the microphone off. So, exploring synergies among EU programs. We initially, the idea, it was of course for the European Commission DG RTD to present, to have an overview of the publication of the guideline synergies between Horizon Europe and ERDF programs that has been published last year on the 5th of July by the European Commission. But unfortunately it was not possible, so Francesca Gastaldon from ProMIS will shortly present it. And then we would like to welcome Mattia Ceracchi from APRE, head of Brussels office in Belgium, with regard to the presentation of the Italian Vademecum on synergies between the structural funds and other EU funding programs. And we are glad to know more about it. And then lastly, Cara Priest, National Focal Point from Austria, GOG, together with colleagues from the Ministry of Health in Austria, they are leading the work package. We will discuss about the role of the joint action in creating synergies with other programs and what we are achieving so far. Of course, also in consideration with the activities that are being carried out from colleagues from Hungary. So thank you very much. I will share the presentation for Francesca. Of course, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand or write in the chat. Please allow me to share the presentation. Okay, here it is. Francesca, welcome and thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sandita, and good afternoon to everyone. I will give you a short presentation about the work the Commission is doing with regard to support the synergy between European Regional Development Funds and Horizon Europe. So next slide, please. Starting from a general perspective, in the 2021-2027 programming, the European Commission intended and intends to promote the use of synergies between the ordinary programs, including the multi-financial framework and the structural funds and the program belonging to the Next Generation EU package, and trying to simplify and until those notes that in the previous programming have compromised a wider and real implementation of synergies among programs. Next slides, please. Okay, so bringing cohesion policy and Horizon Europe closer together has been an important priority of the Commission in the recent years, and particularly when preparing for 2021-2027 programming. And aim was to reinforce the impact of both policies by creating complementarities, especially in less developed and peripheral regions. So Horizon Europe and the European Regional Development Funds are key EU instruments for delivering results in promoting innovative and smart and sustainable economic transformation. and to foster excellence in research and innovation. This table is to show you that even, of course, objectives of the two policies are different. There are many complementarities. There are some complementarities, and there's a point of interlinked where we can speak about synergies. And this link is the policy objective one, especially one of the is one that speaks about developing and enhancing research and innovation capacity and update of innovation technologies. So there are a common objective and tools, and here is where is necessary to build the synergies. What has been done so far by the Commissioner to support a successful synergies among these two programs. Next slide, please. Okay, at political level, the Commission tried to share common priorities and visions among the two programs. At programming level, the Commission tried to support an awareness of strategic priorities, and at operational level, to support with a consistent provision the different regulatory frameworks. For example, in the Annex 4 of the Horizon Europe, there is a list of programs that can interact with Horizon Europe, and it also works to to align the rules in the Common Provision Regulation for the European Regional Development Funds and the European Social Funds Plus. To support these successful synergies, there are some initiatives. I'm gonna speak about the guidance on synergies that was published as Sandita said last year. Next slide, please. This is the Commission on the 5th of July published a practical and user-friendly guidance on new opportunities to maximize the synergies between the Horizon Europe program and the European Regional Development Fund program. And the document covers legal and implementation details of all new opportunities for achieving operational synergies, which includes including for the Seal of Excellence, transfer, cumulative funds, and so on, but I'm gonna mention them later. And it also addresses the financial rules applicable to activities financed from European Structural Investment Funds and Horizon Europe, including details on the applicable cost categories and eligible cost. And the guidance also provides detailed information on the roles and the responsibility of relevant national, regional, and local authorities in the use of funds for Horizon Europe programs and activities. As well as advice on how to FTB interlocked different programs for increase and create synergies. And but the guidance is intended to serve primarily as an indispensable resource for program and project managers, but should also be useful for other stakeholders seeking to benefit from the opportunities presented by these two programs. And this is not definitive guidance, because the Commission aims to continually update the guidance to ensure the opportunities for increased synergies between the two programs remain up to date. And I included the link, so you can just click and see other elements of the guidance online with all the specific details. And next slide, please.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. No.
Apologies. I will try again.
Don't worry. So with what is going to be the guidance with what intends to do this guidance is to create a simplification in terms of synergy. So is implementation, less red tape and and overcome all administration issues, new opportunities, and so diversification, but fully respecting the specific objective of each program, and a legal certainty, so clarity of rules and concrete step. And this here I mentioned some of the most uncommon way the two programs interact, the different type of synergies. The most one way the program interact is through the upstream synergy, so where the capacity is built through the ERDF or EFs plus, and then when the capacity building is built, the stakeholder can access to Horizon Europe. This is the case of as I said, of upstream synergies. At the same time, projects that are being finishing with the support of Horizon Europe can be find the support in the follow-up phase of demonstrators, for instance, through the structural funds and the cohesion funds. So this is the case of downstream synergies and then parallel synergies. But next slide, please. There are three typology of synergy that the Commission needed to make more to work more on than the others, to give a strong alignment and joint designs of rules, and these are the three typologies: so seal of excellence, support to partnership, and possibility to transfer funds. Next slide, please. I'm going to mention just the support to partnership, because as promised, we are involved in a European partnership on transforming health and care systems. So I'm aware of these opportunities. So there is the opportunities for RDF that the European Regional Development Funds maybe consider as member state contribution to European partnership, provided the relevant provisions and fund-specific regulation are complied with. But of course, there is the possibility to use these funds both in a co-funded partnership and in institutionalized European partnership, and of course with specific administrative steps to be specific administrative steps allow to comply with the requirements of avoiding double declaration of costs. So this is something that is required. And I'm gonna stop here. Sorry, I try to summarize all this aspect of the work of the synergies of the Commission, and I leave the floor to Mattia and the next speakers to thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Francesca, for this first overview. Very useful, especially if there was the need maybe again to reflect on what has been published last year, and just to again have a deeper understanding, considering also what as I was saying, we are working within the Work Package 5. I would like just to mention, before giving the floor to Mattia, that the APRE, Agency for the Promotion of European Research, it is also part of the joint action in quality of affiliated entity of the Italian Ministry of Health. So thank you, Mattia. I give you the floor. I think you will present, right? The PowerPoint.
Yes. Thank you, Francesca, and thank you, Sandita. I'm going to share the screen. Please tell me if everything works fine.
Yes.
Yeah. So as you mentioned, I work in the Brussels office of APRE. So as as you said, APRE is the national contact point organization for Horizon Europe, and also with the mission to support Italian participation to European Innovation Research and Innovation Funding. In Brussels, we coordinate this network, the jury, and this is the network actually which developed the Vademecum on synergies between the structural fund and other funding programs. So this is the subject of my intervention today. So about the jury is kind of national best practice, I would say, here in Brussels. We basically do what networks do in Brussels. So we try to exchange information among us. We work in different thematic groups. One is the group on synergies. I mean, we have frequently dialogues and meetings with the Commission, with members of the European Parliament, with our officials in the permanent representation in Brussels. Those are the members, so it's like Italian offices and delegations here in Brussels with ProMIS and with other, I mean, universities, Italian research centers, companies, national associations. What about the Synergies working group? So we started actually working, I would say now 4 years ago on this topic. So while the new legislative framework was being developed actually before the publication of the finalization actually of the Horizon Europe regulation, but also of the EU4Health regulation and the common provision regulations for structural funds. Basically, the vast majority of the members of the jury joined this working group. Those are the activities we have done in these years. We started in September 2020 with the first Vademecum, the first version. That time, actually, we were. I mean, we knew, of course, about the main legislative provisions on synergies, the novelties, especially what Francesca presented just now is, I mean, some novelties the Commission tried to present in the new programming cycle to facilitate synergies between structural funds and EU direct managed programs. That's I mean, something we need to keep in mind, because in the previous programming cycle, probably we had something actually as with the legislative framework, but we didn't have a lot of room for maneuver, I would say, for implementing synergies at the national and regional level. So we started there. We had the occasion to intervene at the Research Innovation Days in 2020. We published then the second version of the Vademecum in February 2021. I mean, the main version is in Italian, but in 2021 we also managed to translate the Vademecum and to publish an English version, which is available, and I will show. I will share with you the links in the final slides. And now, actually, I mean, in these 2 years, we again updated. It was a significant update of the Vademecum in 2022, and in the last year, actually, we tried to focus a bit on thematic sectors, just like to see and to explore if synergies, I mean, can be, and to explore what has been doing in these last 2 years from a thematic perspective. We organized this event in April on the hydrogen economy, and I think we can, in the future, maybe also with your support, we can explore some other sectors. For example, health, I think, would be good to be explored as a sector where synergies are implementing, but maybe we need more knowledge for this. What is in the Vademecum? So basically, I mean, as I said, it's a toolbox that has come up with, I mean, in alignment with the negotiation process of legislative text for 2024-2027 programming cycle. We tried to sum up, let's say, to provide a summary of the main provisions on synergies which are in the legislative text. Is basically a toolbox for local, regional, and national managing authorities. So it's really something that was thought for regions and for also for the ministries to contribute to implementing synergies in the new programming cycle. We managed to collect 42 examples of synergies. I mean, a part of concrete examples of calls that were published using structural funds from 2014 till 2020, and some others examples or plans for the future coming from managing authorities. And of course, I mean, the toolbox was elaborated with the support of many members of the jury, of many members of many Italian organizations here in Brussels, and the work was coordinated by the Tour for EU, which is the organization representing the Tuscany universities here in Brussels. So we have, I mean, as you can see here. So from one side there are the structural funds. From the other side we have the EU Direct managed programs. So Horizon Europe, but also Digital Europe, LIFE program, Connecting Europe facility, the Interregional Investment in Innovation Instruments, and also Focus that was. I mean, edited by ProMIS on the social and health sectors, and we also added some annexes on new competition rules, on the legal framework, especially for Horizon, and so on. Yeah, I mean. Some examples we have, and then you can. I mean, this just to, I mean, to be clear, this update is only in Italian, but I think, I mean, you can easily translate. We have many tools, I mean, now to translate easily also a large amount of text. So I think it's, I mean, easily understandable also for non-Italian speakers with the help of some translators. Something I want to point out maybe, and then I mean, you have then the Vademecum to read in details. Not all of those examples are I mean, presenting something that was I mean, was carried out really using structural funds. Some examples are I mean, examples provided by regions which used maybe their own funds to implementing synergies with the European direct managed programs. So what is the novelty now? The novelty now is in this cycle is that I mean, regions, but not only regions, also ministries has maybe really the modalities, the practicalities to use structural funds to implementing synergies. That is, I mean, in my view, the main novelty from the last programming cycle. And we tried here, for example, those are examples from Horizon program, both examples from Horizon 2020, I mean, from Synergies with Horizon 2020 and Synergies, I mean, planned synergies for for Horizon Europe. You have here, for example, the Seal of Excellence. The Seal of Excellence is maybe the most common example of how managing authorities can use the instrument provided by the Commission to use structural investment funds, but we have also examples for sequential funding and examples for co-funding partnerships. Here again, for partnership, for example, I know that there is also this transforming healthcare systems partnership mentioned. There is, I'm not really aware of the details on the proceedings, but regions can be involved again, and the novelty is that they can use actually structural funds, the co-financing part of the structural funds to fund their participation in the co-funded partnerships. We need maybe to see how, maybe in a couple of years would be clear how these provisions are going. So we don't have the Commission now, but I think this will be really our work for the next 2 years to see how those new provisions, new legislative novelties are actually are being implemented at the national and regional level. And here for the health sector, we have actually some examples. I would say that maybe most of those examples are not presenting really the use of structural funds to implement those initiatives, but you have some examples, I think, here. For example, I think it's one of the best practice from Lombardy regions to have used the funding from their health or regional agencies to support researchers that didn't have the occasion to get Marie Curie funding. They passed through Marie Curie selections under Horizon 2020, but under Horizon Europe, but they didn't have, or they will not have, because it's an action plan for the future, will not have the possibility for, of course, for the restriction of funding to get the Marie Curie scholarship. And maybe this is, an example on how a regional source can be used to fund researchers that had an occasion to try the Horizon funding but didn't manage. So this is just like the overview on the Vademecum. The Vademecum is almost 100 pages. Again, you can have some examples from here. I think a lot of maybe is good to have this framework in mind for next week. I know that those workshops and also the public event would be an occasion to really understand, maybe to ask also the agency, to other agency about this, what's going on really, because maybe we need more information. Now we are just 2 years from the start of our programming cycle. We need more information on how those synergies are working. So it's very important for us also to update our work. Those are the links. The English version, but is from 2 years ago, and the last version in Italian published in July last year. This is the event, but I think you are perfectly aware because you are one of the organizers. I wish to thank you, and if there are questions, we can try to answer.
Thank you very much, Mattia. It was really a comprehensive presentation. Actually, I would like to mention that within the activities that we developed with Work Package 5, we as ProMIS have already mentioned, of course, the Vademecum to the colleagues, because we were working on a report with regard to the mapping of the interaction and synergies at the national level. And we have already a question like, is the Vademecum 3.0 available in English? No, you said no, right? Would there be maybe the intention to translate it?
Yeah, I think I mean we need to discuss on this. I think now our I mean our main intention is to update. So and maybe is maybe more useful to translate the next update. So the 4th version. I don't know when this is going to happen. I maybe hope between the end of this year and the next year. I mean, really, now we need to understand what's going on at national and regional level with I mean how ministries and how the regions are I mean welcoming this new provision from the Commission. So if they are using or not, or I mean at which degree they are using. So this is really the question we need to answer now, and I think the English version will follow the updates.
Okay, thank you very much. We hope so. Colleagues, are there any other question now? If not, maybe I would like you, Mattia, to ask if, with regard to the jury network, and if you could define a bit better or explain us what is the approach with regard to the interaction with the institutions, considering also that the network is based in Brussels. And so, yeah, I think it will be interesting for us to understand, considering that we are now reinforcing our network within the joint action.
Yeah, maybe what I didn't mention in the beginning is that I mean the jury is focusing on research and innovation. So is I mean we have this thematic focus, and we are now 64 members. All the members are Italian organizations that are based in Brussels. So the requirement is I mean the requirements are to be Italian, to be in Brussels with an office, with a stable office, and I mean to have somehow an interest in research and innovation policy and in Horizon Europe program. What we do actually, I mean, we have I would say a continuous interaction first with Italian permanent representation in Brussels. So what we try to do, I mean, every month basically is to get an update on the European Union relevant dossier from an Italian perspectives, and that is what I mean. We get this information from the permanent representation. So with the research and innovation attaché, from the scientific counselor, but also from the digital attaché, from the education attaché, from the health attaché, from the industrial policy attaché. So research and innovation is the core, but we also, I mean, tried, in line with the synergy approach, I would say, to get an overview from other policy sectors. The second main activity is, of course, the interaction with the Commission. So European Commission is, as you perfectly know, the main, I mean, the source of the new European legislation. So is important for us to, I mean, to get in time information from the Commission. I mean, again, topics are focused on research and innovation policy, but also on other, I mean, on I would say collateral or side topics. For example, I'm just mentioning the events we organized this year with the Commission on research assessment, on hydrogen economy, on digital skills. We will organize an event on industrial policy in July, and I mean, so you can have an idea on also on the, I mean, on the topics which are I mean, somehow more or less impacting on research and innovation policy and on Horizon program as well. I mean, what we do also, I mean, each organization I think does constantly is to maximize the source of information we each organization can get in Brussels and to report to the headquarters in Italy. That is also one of our main objectives. So to exchange among us, to get information from the institutions, and to report back to Italy, to our main, to headquarters, to our main organizations in Italy. So I try to sum up what we do in some minutes.
Thank you very much, Mattia. Indeed, interesting to understand also because maybe I didn't mention, but you probably know the EU national focal points might happen that they are also national contact points for Horizon. So already we know we are also collaborating with the network HNN 3.0, and we have been working together during an exchange and build workshop. Also, I think it was anyway relevant because, and maybe Cara will explain us better, that specifically we are working as a network, but we know that one of our objectives is also to implement the UFR program at the national level. This means that, as for example, the Italian case, each member state, each national focal point will then support the implementation at the national level. So in order to then understand and view and know other examples and networks, I think it's still an added value. And maybe one last comment with regard to the Vademecum, it has been presented to the Commission as well. Maybe you can share about the feedback received.
Yes, we organized, 3 different events, at the same time of each update. The last event was in July 2022. We had actually the introduction from the Deputy Director General at the time, Joanna Drake, so DDG of Research and Innovation Department, but we had also Magda De Carli from Research and Innovation Directorate General, and also DG Regio. Actually, for them is a best practice. So I think there is only, to my knowledge, we have been maybe the only country to analyze in depth what happened and what's happening in international level on synergies. Maybe is what was a good feedback overall. Of course, we know that the Commission has different instruments to monitor synergies. We have actually the Seal of Excellence Community of Practices, so that is carried out by the DG Research and Innovation. Now I think recently another initiative, a network was launched under the ERA Forum. So I think really what the Commission maybe, as this is maybe my understanding, needs is really to understand what's going on at national level. So not only from Italy, of course, but from all the 27 countries. So this is really what they need, and maybe this is our contribution from Italy, could be to show the Commission how things are going on in Italy in this cycle. We don't have only the structural funds. We have also the National Recovery and Resilience Plan. So it's there is really room for synergies, but it's also complicated with all this amount of funding.
Indeed, but overall, I think it was an excellent process. And I would like also, so thank you very much, Mattia, again. It is interesting, and we will then be waiting for the updated English version, hopefully. And also, colleagues, I would like to remind that, yeah, during the workshop in the afternoon on the 19th, we will have the chance to interact with colleagues from national contact points, Horizon Europe Cluster 1 and 4. And not only, also from Digital Europe programs. So it will be a really rich and interactive session. Now, I think if there are no other comments, I would give the floor to Cara. And thank you again, Mattia, for your presentation.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sandita. And I also wanted to start by as well thanking Mattia and Francesca for their presentations, and particularly also on the Vademecum, as you also mentioned, Sandita. I think that was very interesting to hear, as it's a document that's quite instructive, inspirational also for the work we're doing in the joint action under Work Package 5. So I guess I join the chorus of colleagues who are looking forward to also its potential future English translation and availability. And perhaps also the colleagues who might avail themselves of the automatic translations that we can already do online of the current version. So much very much for presenting that to us as well. And I would like to basically follow on from something else Mattia said in starting to explain what we're doing in the joint action and under Work Package 5 on synergies. Mattia mentioned in his last remarks that there's really a lot of room for synergies in the current EU programming period, but it is at the same time quite complicated for actors in one field of work, such as health actors, to explore them all at the same time. And this is a little bit where we're trying to come in from side of the joint action with Work Package 5. I'm just trying to share my screen with you. And perhaps, Sandita, if you could nod and confirm to me that you see the PowerPoint presentation. Perfect.
Yes, I guess so. Maybe if you go to the next slide, I will be able to see it even better. Yeah, perfect. Thank you very much.
In full screen?
Yes,
yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, I'm glad for this opportunity to give everyone today a bit of an update on the Work Package 5 activities, because indeed, as most of you already know, Work Package 5 within the joint action is the work package where we're trying to, let's say, help the NFP network and help each other navigate a bit this vast landscape of potential synergies, and hopefully in the end break it down to the level of a few concrete, let's say, tools, a few concrete transferable recommendations that we can all use and apply as NFPs when it comes to how we try to identify synergies and communicate them to our stakeholders at the national level. Because what we've learned so far as well, I think also in the presentations we've heard today, and also in the previous Work Package 6 trainings, which many thanks to the colleagues at ProMIS and APRE as well, is that there's really a really big landscape of potential synergies for EU4Health stakeholders with other programs, but it can also vary greatly at the national level which of these synergies in which topic areas with which instruments are most relevant to our stakeholders, right? So what we are trying to do in Work Package 5 and what you see summed up here a little bit again on this slide is to take from that perhaps a few general recommendations, a few tools that are applicable to NFPs, no matter the national context and no matter which programs they personally are most closely aligned with for their national stakeholders. And to do that so far, of course, we have started with the step of analysis of the state of play, let's say, in terms of how we as EU4Health NFPs already interact with colleagues from other programs nationally, what national strategies are already in place. And we've also tried to create a few fora for us to discuss the state of play and to inform each other on the best practices perhaps that are emerging, but also on the barriers that we have all faced. And of course, ultimately, again, as mentioned, we hope to, in the work package, be able to then present the entire consortium, the entire network of NFPs with a few recommendations that can help us strengthen these national ecosystems for synergies, even though they might look a little bit different in each of our countries. And to very quickly summarize again, and I know this is a bit of a repetition for most of the colleagues, but to get us started again, I just want to very quickly refer back to the outcomes of the Work Package 5 report, Deliverable 5.1, where we try to map the state of play of interactions at the time between EU4Health's national focal points and colleagues, NCPs of other health-related funds and programs. We based this report originally on a survey that was circulated in May of last year. It has since been published and is available now also on the NFP4Health's website for all the colleagues who might want to look it up again. And what we really saw at that time was that, unsurprisingly, most of us had quite strongly established relationships already with our Horizon Europe counterparts, of course, particularly those in the health cluster, whereas for all other health-related funds and programs, and that goes as well for the structural funds, the links that already existed at national level were much less strongly present. And in terms of trying to map at that time the strength, the weaknesses internally, but also the threats and opportunities externally, what we saw that we all shared in the NFP network was, of course, a bit of a challenge to drive forward this work on synergies with overall limited resources. The fact that in most countries, as well as on the European level at that time, there weren't a lot of pre-existing structures for this cross-program exchange. And also a difficulty often in identifying concrete synergistic opportunities with other programs, which is also why I found this presentation and also the Vademecum in general quite interesting, as Mattia also shared that in the scope of that, there were, I think it was 42, let's say, concrete examples of this synergistic activity identified between the structural funds and Horizon. And I think what we've seen in the Work Package 5 work is that having these concrete examples to go off of and to then be able to inspire stakeholders in turn how they might use these programs synergistically is really important, and perhaps something where we haven't been outfitted so well yet with examples. On the positive side though, and I will also show this a bit as a visualization that most of you have already seen, these strong connections already present with the Horizon counterparts, and of course also on our network level, as Sandita mentioned, with the HNN3 network, we found could really serve as a, let's say, as a blueprint for building up national networks between EU4Health NFPs and the contact points of other programs. And we've also seen that with Horizon, in most countries, there was already quite a large range of qualitative interactions, really, that we can certainly build on as a sort of blueprint for interactions with other funds and programs. And that was also, again, this is just a quick visualization again from the D51 report. Unsurprisingly, at that time, we saw a situation where most of us NFPs said, well, at the moment, our interactions with other programs at the national level are still quite limited. But on the other hand, also most of the respondents to the survey said, well, I believe this can be improved in the future. I perceive it as at least somewhat convenient to extend my joint work with the contact points of other programs in my country. And that's sort of the hopeful but not very well developed point of national networks we started with at the time of that survey last year. Since then, together with the colleagues from Hungary who co-lead with Austria this work package, we have organized a few follow-up activities where we really wanted to see what has happened since the time we published the report. And also, of course, what we were hoping to achieve with the report was also to provide a starting point, let's say, for NFPs to do the work nationally and to really reach out to their counterparts of other programs, which many of us, ourselves included, mapped for the first time in our own countries in the scope of having to answer that survey. So we really wanted to see how this had developed since then. And to that end, we have recently held an interactive online workshop, which was the milestone 12 under the joint action. And we also had an on-site and hybrid workshop organized by the colleagues in Budapest by the Hungarian beneficiaries of the joint action where we wanted to explore together with the entire network what had moved on in terms of national interactions. It's also, again, which sort of best practices we could identify in the network that we could all learn from and then hopefully transfer. And I just want to share quickly with you some outcomes from these two events, a bit mixed together, because they, on the one hand, we explored there the national strategies, also above the NFP and NCP level, but on the other hand, also once again, the connections, particularly between the different counterpoints. And what we saw there, what we discussed in Budapest and also in the recent interactive online workshop, is that perhaps not in all cases, not in all of our countries, we've had occasion to broaden our networks with the NCPs of other programs much beyond the connections that already existed last year. But definitely in most cases, in almost all cases in our discussions, we've seen that colleagues on the NFP side have deepened their existing connections with NCPs of other programs, for example, with Horizon, in many cases also with Digital Europe, another HDA managed program, of course. And many have for the first time organized, for example, joint informational events. I know this is something we have done here in Austria as well. We had an occasion to have a joint informational event with our colleagues from the Horizon Health Cluster 1 and also with the Digital Europe colleagues for the first time. And many have also started up informal exchanges, let's say bilateral exchanges with other new programs, for example, also including the territorial cooperation programs, interterritorial cooperation programs under the Interreg umbrella, in some cases also other instruments such as the TSI, Erasmus Plus, and others. And we've also seen in these workshops and in these interactive discussions we had there a few emerging good practices from countries, really. And here I'm also looking once again to Italy, and we've heard from Sandita in some of these contexts about what ProMIS has been doing, who of course as a network have a very unique and very well-positioned structure and have been interacting with many programs, including LIFE program, the TSI, et cetera, so also those outside of the HDA umbrella. And we've also, for example, heard from colleagues in Norway who have explored relationships, particularly also with Horizon and Digital, but also the UCPM, so the Union Civil Protection Mechanism on the preparedness side. So again, coming back to what I mentioned at the start, we've really seen that in different countries, perhaps different programs are perceived to be most important to their own national stakeholders in terms of opportunities for collaboration in the health field. But what I think is common to us between countries, and no matter which programs we want to most closely explore, are the strategies around it and also the barriers that we face around it, which of course, first and foremost, is contending with limited resources and therefore really needing to pick perhaps a few programs to most deeply explore synergies with as a health NFP and as a health actor. And I think this is perhaps also one of the, let's say, early recommendations or conclusions I think we can perhaps take away from the fora for exchange we've held so far. It might be really necessary for NFPs in most cases in order to use our resources well, to start small in terms of how we interact with other programs at the national level, to select a few programs to explore synergies with most deeply. And this can be based, of course, on the needs of the national stakeholders. We've had many colleagues in these active workshops making us aware of that and saying, well, it's really necessary to go to your own national stakeholders and involve them in this process and ask what are their needs, what are their topics that they want to explore synergies around, be that personalized medicine, be that cancer, be that preparedness, be that digitalization, etc. Again, coming back to what Matthias said, the potential field of synergies for health is vast, and I think one practical takeaway from our work in Work Package 5 so far would be to start small, both in terms of selecting the programs nationally that you want to explore synergies with and the colleagues of other programs that you want to work with in terms of informational activities, and also start small or start smartly in terms of selecting a few particular topics in the health field where you see the potential for synergistic activities. And again, that can vary according to the needs of national stakeholders. And another point, of course, in terms of starting small and starting smartly is to make use of the existing and also emerging opportunities that we already have. And that can be on the national level in terms of just taking part in the informational events of other contact points in your country. And of course, also then at the EU level, we've talked a lot already about the Synergy event we will have in Rome next week that I hope many of us will be attending, and where we'll meet the networks of other programs, contact points. And I think this is also a very nice development in the sense that when we started our work under the joint action and on Work Package 5, there was really no such forum at the time yet for the contact points of different programs to come together. So we're very excited to see what that will bring next year, next week, apologies. The second point, I believe I've already mentioned, the national, and indeed, I think also from Work Package 5 side, we can't necessarily make a prescription which programs to interact with more closely on the national side. This can depend on your stakeholder landscape and whether your main stakeholder group, for example, are more the national authorities, the regional and local public actors, or whether you're also very strongly focusing on the, for example, academic stakeholders, on the NGOs, et cetera, who of course also all have a role to play in EU4Health. But depending on your national stakeholder landscape, of course, the programs you might want to focus on the topics you might want to focus on to explore synergies might differ. And another thing colleagues brought up also in the workshops in Budapest and also in the webinar we had recently is that there's sometimes also a practical consideration to make in terms of which programs to focus on for synergy exploration nationally. To give you an example, of course, in the health program, health is front of mind, but in other programs and instruments, such as, for example, the technical support instrument that we have mentioned and others, we're of course also in the situation that as health actors, we are competing, let's say, for support and for funding with other policy areas, also nationally, which is not to say that these instruments shouldn't be explored for synergies, but just that depending on your national context and your national political priorities, some of the instruments might be easier to participate to for health actors than others. And this is definitely also something that can be kept in mind. And my second to last point, before I hand over to my colleague, Johanna from our ministry, what we've also seen in Work Package 5 so far and in the interactive workshops we've had recently is that in quite a few countries, also again, Norway among them, but also some other countries are starting to work in this direction. On one hand, networks and exchanges have been set up between NFPs and NCPs on the level of together finding formats to inform stakeholders better about the respective programs, about their differences and their complementarities. But on the other hand, there's also been a movement in many countries towards creating an exchange on the let's say, strategic and decision-making level of the national authorities who are responsible either for the health program and for the other European programs to align on their inputs into the EU programming processes. And of course, if in your country and if for your NFP, and in terms of where your NFP is located, this is a possibility to give impulses also in that direction. Those colleagues from those countries where this has been to happen have shared that this dual approach can really help drive synergies forward. And then for my very last point, I come back to what I already mentioned at the start. The field of synergies for health is potentially vast, but really identifying the concrete examples is not always that easy. So we've really seen from the Work Package 5 work that when we do have some concrete examples of how synergies were utilized nationally, these are examples that we need to learn from and really extract the good practices from to inspire stakeholders in the future how to perhaps apply them. And again, something where we look very much with interest also on what the colleagues at APRA are doing with the Vademecum, etc. We from Austrian side today, we don't have 42 examples, concrete examples for you, but we do want to highlight once more just one example of an Austrian project that successfully did utilize structural funds, that did utilize the health program, and a few other instruments along the way. And to present this, I would like to hand over just very briefly now to my colleague Johanna from the Ministry of Health. If you're still there, Johanna, otherwise I can also go on if you'd like. Perfect, wonderful. Then please take over.
Thank you, Cara. And most of you already know me. I'm Johanna, working for the Ministry of Health in Austria. And most of you, I believe, already know this example, but we wanted to present it to you again, or for those of you who don't know it, because it's a very good example of how synergies can be implemented in the real world, so to say. Just very briefly on the background of this project, our primary healthcare reform started around 10 years ago, and it tried to tackle problems like demographic changes in the workforce and in the population, or under provision in rural areas. And next part of the slide, please. Thank you. And part of this reform was also to establish primary healthcare units in Austria. These units consist of multidisciplinary teams. They have more flexible working hours, but they are very flexible in their organization, and they're designed like companies and led by doctors or interested people in the health field who run those units. And since almost 10 years ago now, we have used 5 different EU programs to fund different activities throughout the process of establishing these primary healthcare units in Austria. And to show you how this looks like, I will just very briefly go through these 5 EU programs. In 2017, no, it actually started 2014. I'm sorry, we have a mistake on this slide, but it doesn't really matter for the results. We started to use the European Agricultural Fund for Rural Development. Around 20 million were reserved for health for Austria through this fund, and around 10 primary healthcare units were funded. And this was in the very beginning of the project. So those were the very first primary healthcare units in Austria. And it was just used as a starting point, so to say. Then in 2018, our colleagues used the TSI so the technical support instrument, to get some basic materials and practical support for this project. Through the TSI, you can request some activities from companies or from other entities. And through the TSI, our colleagues got a startup guide for interested people who wanted to fund a primary healthcare unit. They got a website for the project and other PR and communication material. And this material was very, very practical material, and it was also used for future applications for different other programs. But I will show you this later. And then very quickly, the EIB, the European Investment Bank, our colleagues cooperated with them in 2020, and they secured around 180 million euros as loans for the establishment of primary healthcare units. Unfortunately, not a lot of this money was used, but it showed to our colleague, it was very surprising to us that you can also use the EIB for projects like this. And I think many people don't know that you can reserve amounts of money from the EIB for certain projects or themes. And then the RRF, the Recovery and Resilience Facility, is kind of the most important EU program in this context for us. Austria's plan has around 3 billion euros, and for health, there are, I think, around 100 million or 130 million. And for the primary healthcare unit project, we have 100 million from this Austrian plan reserved. And it's supposed to establish primary healthcare units in throughout Austria in the future. It also supports a primary healthcare platform to further increase the attractiveness of founding primary healthcare units. And it's kind of at the start, as you can see, it started in 2021, but it has, for us, it's a lot of resources to really get this project going. And the interesting thing here is that we used the material from the TSI, so the website and the communication material to apply for these funds. So this shows that you can use different EU programs interactively, so to say, that you can really get the most out of them. And then the last EU program, we all know this program, the EU4Health program, and our experts or our colleagues participate in the joint action on primary healthcare, and this is primarily used for capacity building and knowledge gain, so to further support for the project in the background. So what did we learn from this project? That health is often not the initial priority of the EU program or fund. Only the EU4Health program is the health program, you know, and it's sometimes hard to find out what programs you can use for what activities, but there are a lot of possibilities out there, as we could only also see with the European Investment Bank. And yes, and you can also, as I've already said, use materials from EU programs for other EU programs. This was a big learning for our colleagues, that you always can also think how to use EU programs to get to other EU programs. Yes, this was everything from my side. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Thank you.
Thank you, Joanna, and thank you, Cara. Well, it's one example, but it's one vital example, I would say, because we know already, we have been working also during our training on site, but what Austria is showing is again an example, and I hope it's inspirational. So thank you for bringing that again, colleagues. And also with regard of what Cara was bringing out from the workshops that we have been organizing lately, I guess it is important again to have in mind the interaction also and alignment between the national authorities at the national level. That is important in this case. And again, I think it's a process that needs to be built up. I hope that during the next two events that we will be participating next week, we will have the chance again to find out more. You will meet Cara and Joanna in presence as well, colleagues, if you want to add other questions. And also I know that some colleagues will join also the network maybe for the first time in presence, for example Portugal, and I can see colleagues that are also online today, and some colleagues from Malta, so we will be glad to meet each other again. Amanda, do you have a question? Okay, because I saw your camera on. Thank you, colleagues, again. I don't know if there are any other remarks from your side. I think
Thanks for that. That was great, and thanks, Cara, for all of those recommendations and conclusions. I think they're really good advice. I think some of the struggles, have been identified, and and alignment and working with our national authorities is a key step as well. So we could identify some potential synergies, but it's getting the relevant stakeholders on board, that is going to be really important as well.
Yeah, much agreed. I'm also very interested to see how next week in Rome the portion of the event open to the external stakeholders will go on Tuesday, which is also, of course, a bit of a pilot also from HDE's side. So yeah, just very excited to see whether we can use that to bring some of these issues forward a bit as well. I hope so, certainly.
Yeah, I hope so too. And maybe I would like to ask Mattia if the presentation could be shared with us, because I'm sure colleagues, thank you then. Okay. We will be publishing it on the website, on the platform, as you know, and also by email. Thank you, colleagues. I hope this 1 hour and 15 minutes was an occasion to, again, wrap up some ideas for next week. I remind also that you can join online for those who registered online. I think this afternoon all the links will be sent out, so you have it one together in one email, okay, with the updated agendas that are finally finalized. So I'm really excited for next week. Thank you again for joining, and just to announce that next 11th of July will be the last training from this, let's say, first part of the year with regard to the EU4Health proposals and calls preparation. Today also HDEA is publishing the new calls on EU4Health also, okay? So thank you for being so active and for such a big participation. I am really happy and cannot wait to see you again in Rome and work together. Thank you again to the speakers and have a nice afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
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 Bye.